This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
So let's talk about the match itself. Meltzer would write, Kurt Angle beat Randy Orton in 15:07. With all his injuries, Angle worked a more wrestling-based, safer style. He only took around 3 bumps the entire match, aside from the suplexes he executed. They gave Angle new entrance music to eliminate the pauses and to basically end the "You suck" chant. There was some resistance to Angle being ECW at first, but with his ECW mouthpiece, he was accepted very quickly. The crowd turned on Orton, and the crowd reactions were different. Here, they popped for every offensive move, but when Angle was selling, they were quiet or chanted boring or hepatitis or whatever. Angle used a series of German suplexes on a comeback, and Angle slam for a near fall. He used an ankle lock, but Orton escapes. Orton came off the top of the cross body, and Angle reversed it for another near fall. Angle eventually won via tap out with the ankle lock. Orton limped and sold like he was re-injured going to the back. So that's the end of the match. You get the win, but I want to sort of break it down. He says you wrestled a more wrestling-based, quote-unquote, safer style, and he thinks you only took around 3 bumps besides the suplexes you executed. When you're laying out that match with Randy for that hour or so, are you really making him aware of, now we got to watch out for this, and hey, as a heads up, I got a little nagging thing there? Is that sort of the gist of the conversation?
Yes, for the first time in my career, I was actually being careful. I never did that before. This is the first time that I pulled back and said, I'm not going to give 110%. I'm not going to give my full entire body to this match. I need to save my body so that these injuries will heal. And that was the whole reason why I wrestled at Randy at ECW One Night Stand. They knew he would be a safe opponent for me.
So when you're putting a match together like this, sort of take us through the basic context of a match. A lot of our listeners, myself included, we've watched a lot of matches, but we don't really understand structure. But I know there's the heat, and there's the shine, and there's the cutoff, and there's a hope spot, and there's all these terms that we've heard. But is there sort of a basic structure to putting together a match?
Yes, you want to start with the babyface and the heel. They start wrestling. The babyface out wrestles the heel. The heel stops the babyface, gets heat on him, works the heat, puts him in holds, gives him a couple of false hope spots where the babyface looks like he's going to make his comeback, but he doesn't. Then eventually you're going to do a double down where you both get knocked down, and then the ref's going to 10 count. And when you get up, you start the comeback. The babyface makes the comeback on the heel. They bump the heel around. Then the false finishes and submission trade-offs all occur at that particular time. And then you end up with the finish. And whoever wins, if the babyface wins, he usually wins clean. If the heel wins, he cheats the win. That's a typical match.
So in a match like this, is there an agent involved? I mean, I understand that there's tons of agents that are there, but I'm just wondering, hey, it's Kurt Angle and Randy Orton. Do we really need an agent? Do you recall if there was one?
Well, we do have agents that provide us for each match. Whether you're Kurt Angle or you're nobody, you're going to have an agent. So they're going to give their insight. They're going to tell you what they feel is best in the match, and you can take it or you can, get rid of it. It's up to you. But their advice is usually pretty good, and we usually do use it. I use a lot of Johnny Laurinaitis' advice, and I used a lot of Pat Patterson's advice. And those two are my favorite agents.
So for this particular match, when you're out there, you're wrestling with the crowd, you got the ECW mouthpiece, you sort of laid out some of the structure. Randy's calling the match. Is there a moment in the match that stands out to you as being particularly memorable?
Well, I did like the false finishes. I thought that Randy and I had a great little array of false finishes before we did the finish. I do remember Randy going for the RKO and me pushing him down and getting him, grabbing his ankle and getting him in the ankle lock, which I used in a previous pay-per-view against Randy. But Randy reversed it into a roll-up, and then we came up and continued the match. I thought that spot was really cool. We had a lot of false finishes that I really liked, and I liked the finish coming out of nowhere.
Tell me about the series of suplexes. It's become a trademark in some of your matches, and of course Brock Lesnar's. And once upon a time, Eddie Guerrero has his own version of suplexes. But of course, you're using the Germans. Was anybody ever particularly cautious, or did you have different ways you threw it for different guys?
Well, you had to worry about whether a guy had a bad neck or not. So if he has a bad neck, you're most likely not going to do the Germans. But if you do, you have to land him on his back. You can't throw him on top of his head. And so if you're doing a German, you want the opponent to land flat on the top of his back and not hit his head. Although a lot of Germans end up where you do hit your head. It's a tough move to perfect, and it's an easy move to get injured from. So you have to be really careful. You have to know what you're doing if you're going to do Germans.
When you're working with Randy, is there anything different that you do with a German? Does he have a way that he likes to take them any different from anybody else?
No, Randy's just a big dude. He's 6'5", 6'6". So, when you hit a German on him, he has a lot of range, and he has a big ass back. So it's a little easier Germaning Randy because you have a bigger target.
Let's keep it going here and talk a little bit more about the finish of the match. Oh, you know what? Before we do, the chants. You said they were, being obnoxious. They're getting lots of different ones here going. You even saw in the Observer boring and even hepatitis referenced. And to be clear, Randy nor Kurt have hepatitis, so whatever. Chat me up though. Is there a chant you got at an ECW show that you thought, what the hell are they saying? Because that has become sort of a trademark of an ECW crowd, these crazy chants.
I never heard of anything that was out of the ordinary. I'm sure you have, Conrad. But
oh yeah.
Name a few. I want to hear them.
Well, they had boy, this is something I didn't think I'd say on a podcast. They had a show your tits chant. Whenever there would be tables broken, they would have a guy go in the ring and sweep it up with a broom, and they would chant, "Sweep it up, asshole, sweep it up." They had another chant for a lady, and boy, this doesn't age well. "She's a crack whore." I mean, there were some over the top chants where you're like, am I at a wrestling show? What's going on right now?
That is one mean crowd.
Hey, Big Daddy, you got to get excited about saving people money. Woo! Woo!
SaveWithConrad.com.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.